From a prison cell to living well, Mike Pisciotta has a story to tell. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 195th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Last week, we heard from the irreverent but effective Ben Settle. You need to check out his story and check out his email players list. This guy is a well-known copywriter, but he's more well-known among the insiders that know what the heck good copywriting means. So check out that episode. You can visit thesaleswhisperer.com/session 194. Next week, we have Jason Swank. Jason built a very lucrative, prosperous digital marketing agency and sold it for a tidy sum, all before the age of 40. He's now coaching others on how to grow their own business. He was introduced to me by a mutual friend. We've gotten to know each other. He's on the East Coast, but we chat a good bit. We were actually on live yesterday. He does a Sunday evening live broadcast on Facebook, and so we were chatting, and I was busting his chops a little bit. But you're going to love the insight that he provides. So that's Jason Swank coming up next week. Today we have Mike Pisciotta. I ran across him, again, through some mutual friends. We haven't met yet, but I won't steal his thunder. But he spent a decade in the Florida State Penitentiary and is still living a great life despite starting off life in a very rough way, which he tells he holds nothing back. So you want to tune into this with a pen and paper handy. I always recommend you re-listen. But this is really a compelling story, hearing somebody that had every excuse to do nothing in life and decided to fight back and do something. I think it's a great inspiration. And if you need more inspiration on how to sell mo better, check out the Make Every Sale program, makeeverysale.com. You're going to be hearing me talk about this a lot because at the end of the day, everything is sales. Mike even talks about how he met his wife in prison. She was a staff member and a volunteer, and he had to sell her, right, on him being a worthy individual to hang out with and then marry. Everything is sales. So, again, check out makeeverysale.com. And now let's bring on Mike. Mike Pisciotta, otherwise known as Mike Smith, all the way from Shirley, New York, through Michigan, now Florida. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Good. What's happening, man? Thanks for having me.
You know, I appreciate you taking the time, telling your story. We've been chatting a bit. I should have just turned the record on and I even told you because you were like giving away these nuggets. You better not be like me where I go to the driving range before I golf and I use up all my good shots. Okay, you better have more goodness. All right.
All right. I'll do my best, man. There's a lot of pressure there, but I'll do my best.
Okay, so we were chatting a bit. I found you online. I loved your story. You are the second individual after Mark Lyford back on session 61, so my second guest to have gone through prison and turned things around and made a life for yourself. So would you mind take a minute or two, kind of give our listeners a little thumbnail sketch, and then, as I say, we'll dive down the rabbit hole?
For sure, man. So I'll give some context. So I actually spent 10 full years, 10 calendar years in a Florida state prison. So what happened, the years I spent were from the age of 18 to the age of 28. And up until the age of 18, man, the world that I lived in was just completely dysfunctional. The family life, though my mom and dad were there and married, things were just extremely dysfunctional. Drugs, the world that I was surrounded by, all that I knew was crime. All I knew was criminal activity. I'd never really been exposed to anything other than that. And so I find myself at 18, man, just this selfish, self-centered, self-absorbed, drug-addicted criminal. And I wake up in a jail cell and had no idea why I'd been there. The night before, I had popped probably 12 Xanaxes and probably should have died, shouldn't have survived. Woke up in a cell, found out that I'd robbed a store the night before, had no idea what had happened. And so they wind up sentencing me to 10 years in prison. And I was only 18, and I remember starkly the feeling that came with that was, here I am, I'm 18, you're giving me 10 years. Like, that's more than half of my life up to this point. And so it kind of felt like I'm standing at the bottom of Mount Everest, and they're asking me to climb this thing. Like, it felt like there was no end. There was never going to be another side of it. And
it sounds like they were dumping Mount Everest on you.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, here's this huge boulder, dude. Now carry this up Mount Everest. That's exactly what it felt like, man. And so I'm standing at the bottom of this mountain, and just as an 18-year-old, you're immature. You swear that you know everything, and just trying to process what was ahead of me. And I remember, I went through the county jail, which is where you go to the court system. And then when you get sentenced, they send you to the state prison system. And being young in the prison system is not a good thing at all, because when you get into the prison system, you're around a bunch of other extremely hard-headed fellas who have no regard or respect for life. Many of them doing life sentences, double life sentences, 35 years, and they just don't care about anything. And so it makes it a very challenging environment to live in. And I remember one day I'm up in my cell, and I'm exercising, and I'm talking to God and talking with myself, and just kind of having this internal conversation as I'm realizing what really was lying ahead of me. And I think this moment is really what shaped how I spent those years and how I was able to come out the other side of that and create success. Is I'm standing there, I'm working out, and I'm just having this internal dialogue. And I just began to realize that, I am where I am because of the choices that I'd made. No one put me there. It wasn't the police. It wasn't the streets. It wasn't my friends. It wasn't my family's fault. It was my fault. It was my choices. I had chose to give them 10 years of freedom. I did that. It was my choice. But what I was not going to let them have is 10 years of life. And so that choice in a prison cell shaped how I spent those 10 years. And I went on throughout the 10 years of prison to just immerse myself in everything positive, business-related, marketing-related, biblically related, personal development, exercise, everything that I could do to improve myself and prepare to walk out of prison and seize opportunities.
That's amazing. So how early in your incarceration did you have this dialogue?
Within just a few months. I mean, it was very, very early. So thankfully it was early where I didn't waste any time. So I was able to kind of make this shift. I mean, I think, as a matter of fact, really, the day that I woke up in the jail cell, things, really, really changed. I just began to realize who I was at 18, when you sober up and you're separated and you get some time to just reflect on life and choices and where you are. I just saw it. I didn't like the person that I was, man. And I said, I'm going to change this no matter what. And at that time, I didn't know what the sentence was going to be. I just knew however long this is going to be, I'm going to use this time to come out the other side of this completely different than I went into it. And it just used it that way. And I used it. I wound up, learning multiple languages in prison. I speak 5 foreign languages. I learned all about business and marketing. I also had the great pleasure of meeting my lovely wife while I was in prison, which is a whole nother side story. She was a radio DJ, and long story, but we met in 7.5 years of spending time with me in prison. I walked out and we wound up getting married, and here we are married going on almost 7 years with 2 lovely kids and a couple prosperous businesses.
Nice. So did you have like a mentor in there, or was it just the slap in the face of waking up in jail and that you got the self-motivation from, hitting that rock bottom?
I don't want to say that there weren't any mentors, but to kind of give everybody perspective, I mean, the prison environment really it's very similar to what you see here on TV. I mean, it really is a place where most guys become better criminals, where most guys just go to – I mean, they get there and they want to gamble and get high and get involved in gangs. And so I was a minority. There were the occasional guys throughout. I got down the learning languages path from this guy that I'd met. He taught himself Spanish, and I just stalked the guy like, dude, teach me how you learn these languages, because he spoke Spanish, Portuguese, and I think Italian. And taught himself all of them, man. And I just stalked the dude. Like, he didn't want to teach. He said anytime he'd ever taught somebody, they took it for granted and never applied it. And I convinced him otherwise. And he finally did teach me. And the cool thing is, this was actually my very, very first entrepreneurial experience, man, because once I learned the language, all the guys around me, they were like, I want to learn too. Teach me. And I knew that if I just offered it for free, nobody would, they wouldn't respect it, man. They wouldn't give themselves. So I decided to charge these guys, and I put together a little curriculum of how to teach Spanish. And so these guys are paying me like a tuna packet, a couple ramen noodle soups, and like a pack of cookies a week to teach these guys Spanish. And I did, and a lot of them went on to learn it. And so I kind of became like a mentor to most of the other guys, but I think that one individual, his name was Tyrone, was probably the only mentor type that I'd met throughout the time, because most of the other guys, dude, were just a bunch of haters, man. They saw me doing positive, and they always had negative things to say. The officers too, they want to pull you down and keep you in that bucket. And so it's definitely an environment where I think just the hitting the wall and realizing, wow, dude, 10 years I put myself in this. You gotta fix this, dude. You gotta change this, man. This can't be the rest of your life.
Well, I mean, that in and of itself is amazing, because most people, regardless of the situation, turn it around. It's, oh, woe is me. It's not my fault. My parents didn't love me. My car wouldn't start. The dude wouldn't sell me the course at a discount, even though, the time had expired. So he's a jerk. It's unique, especially in today's day and age, to accept responsibility. I always tell people, your bank balance is a direct reflection of the good and or bad choices you have made.
Absolutely, dude. I think it's a message that we just don't share enough in the world today, man. Like, personal responsibility is a concept that seems so far removed from the society we're in. But I 100% agree with you, dude. And it's interesting, because one of the things that I didn't realize with, going to prison is, although I was in prison and I was changing and I was growing, the people that I had left behind, my family and stuff, they weren't. So I came home to a world where they were still thinking and living the same. And here I am, I got all of these financial things, personal development, all of these things that I've learned. And as I begin to try to share it with them, and how, your choices are, directly relative to where you are in life, they did not want to hear it. And I just met just a bunch of resistance. And it really blew me away, because I was like, why? Yeah. Why is it so hard, man? Why is it so hard for people to just own where they are, and that where they are is because of the choices they made? But it is, dude. People they don't want to own it, man.
A question I like to ask, I'm on this eternal journey, I guess. I've interviewed a lot of people that have hit rock bottom, and then they came back. But what, has been your experience, and do you have advice for people on how to succeed without hitting rock bottom? I see so many guys, 2 and 3 divorces and 2 and 3 bankruptcies, and, now they're killing it. You had to go to prison. I see people with bankruptcies. I mean, whatever, just, then they're like, okay, now I got it. And they're successes, which is fantastic. But man, how can we help people succeed without going through so much pain?
That's kind of a hard question to answer, man, because I'm not really sure if I entirely can answer that. But I think there's some things to take away from, what I'm sharing, even some of the stories. I think there's probably a common thread that runs through the bankruptcies and the divorces and the prison that are able to turn success around. And I think it's what we were just talking about, and that is the ability to just step back and own where you are in life, and just own, like, if somebody, maybe they haven't hit rock bottom, and they're at a job, they're working, maybe they're making 6 figures as a salary, but they hate it. They hate where they are in life. They hate it. They are so tired of driving into the office, man. And the thing is you need the ability to step back and recognize that where you are, whether you like it or hate it in life, is a direct result of choices that you have or haven't made. And I think the way to start creating successes, and whatever that success for you could be, that can be, everybody has a different way of measuring and what they would call success, is just own it. And I think there's a tremendous power in owning where you are in life, taking personal responsibility, taking that personal inventory, and just making a decision from that I'm going to change this. I'm not going to just continue to robotically go through the motions of life wherever I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you brought up, you mentioned something, like defining success. And I think society has succeeded at misdefining success. We see it all the time with celebrities, I just watched the Mike Tyson story or show or whatever. Have you seen that?
I haven't yet, but it's on my radar to watch. I saw that come out. Was it good?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, some friends of mine told me, and I have Amazon Prime, and, I didn't really know his story.
Okay.
I grew up while he was doing his thing, and he's a couple years older than me, and, of course, the great Mike Tyson, and then went to jail for rape, and then, a couple of wives. Robin Givens takes him for money. Don King, blah, blah, blah. And he bites Holyfield's ear, and, he gets a crazy tattoo. Now he's in The Bachelor, or what's it, The Bachelor? Or what was the movie in Vegas? The Hangover?
Oh, The Hangover.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, he's this crazy dude, and maybe he's mellowing out. But it was so good. Those that are listening, it is super bad language, but other than that, this guy had an interesting story. But he talked about, owning his journey. He talked about, redefining success. And he had to kind of reevaluate his life. And I see these celebrities getting taken for everything. You see celebrities and athletes, ODing and, literally killing themselves because they're miserable because they went after what society said they should go after. And they realize it's just so unfulfilling. Do you think, you got some clarity and you can now really define what success means in life?
I think for me, and here's what guided, as I walked out of prison, there was only one thing that I knew that I wanted in life. It wasn't money and cars and success in business. There was only one thing. And for everybody listening, it'll make a tremendous amount of sense considering where I came from. And that one thing that I knew I wanted above all things was freedom. That was the thing that drove me. That was the thing that I wanted. And so having that as like the driving force behind everything I did really worked as a gauge to gauge opportunities and gauge things that came into my life and this and that. I could filter everything through, is this going to get me closer to the one thing that I want? And both my wife and I shared that, freedom was what we wanted. And for us, freedom has a couple of different definitions. One, freedom from being told what to do, freedom from, having to punch a time card, freedom to just up and do whatever we want, whenever we want. And so freedom of time, freedom financially to have the ability to do whatever we want to do. All of those were the things that drove us. And that was, for us, success now is that, like before this podcast, dude, I get to go. I'm the one that gets to pick my son up from school. And it's interesting because I'm one of the very few dads that actually take him to school and pick him up. I'm there when he wakes up in the morning. I'm there when he comes home from school. I'm there when he skins his knee at 1:30 in the afternoon riding his bike. I'm there when, a lot of dads aren't. And so that is success for me. That is the success. And all the other things that make that happen, those are just kind of like byproducts and things that just, they're cool. The money, the success in business, those things are cool. But really at the end of the day, it's really about, the freedom for me to be there with my kids, to be there with I have a son and a daughter, to be there with them and not be owned by somebody else.
Yeah. So you get out and you start a business. And I read some of your story with you and your wife, and y'all went through a couple of iterations. Can you walk us through, what did you do to start the business? So, you're out, right? And you're pretty much at rock bottom. Yep. Although in some regard, you're top of the mountain, right? Because you're released. You do have your freedom, but you don't have a silver spoon in your mouth. You don't have daddy saying, "Hey, I have a corner office for you. Go ahead and get started and just continue building my empire." So you're at ground zero. and you got to start a business now. You got to apply. It's one thing to read books about marketing and self-development. It's another to now go do it and execute. So what did you do? I mean, what were the first things you did to launch this business? And then we'll kind of get into how it evolved.
Yeah, this is a cool story, man. This is interesting because, as I walk out of prison, one of the things that I knew while I was in prison is that I had no idea what I was going to do when I came home, because I didn't know what opportunities were going to present themselves, what was going to be available, what would even what was life like on the other side of the fences. And to put it in perspective for the folks that are listening, being in prison for 10 years at the time that I walked out of a world that Google didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist, smartphones didn't exist. I'd never even seen a flat screen TV. So I walk out of this prison world that none of these things existed in the world that I used to know. I walk out into this world, and it was a little bit overwhelming at first. And so as I entered the world, I really didn't know what I was going to be doing. My wife was working a job. She had a brick and mortar business while I was in prison. And then when the economy tanked because it was locally driven, it kind of it disappeared. It just, the economy just swallowed it up. And so she was actually working for a client. And so I had come home, and initially, my first thing to do was, to get a job somewhere. I just come out of prison. We've got bills. I'm getting ready to get married. I got to work somewhere. Well, nobody would hire me anywhere. Nobody. They'd get excited when they saw my resume, the languages I spoke, when they actually interviewed me, I was well spoken. And as soon as they'd find out about the record, they'd shut the door in my face and nothing would happen. And so maybe about a month or two of being home, of just continually facing this, while also just spending time just learning and catching up to date of what's going on online. At the same time, my wife loses her job because she married an ex-con. So both her and I are there, tons of bills, nobody to help us. It's just her and I, no income. And, we did what, we think any probably savvy entrepreneurial type would do in our situation. And we started selling trash on Craigslist. We would literally go out in the middle of the night, socks on our hands because it was a little chilly, even though it's Florida, and we would find printers and vacuums and flat screen computer monitors and put it on Craigslist. And we did this knowing that we had to create an online business of some sort. And every dime that came in, we used to get our first website and get a membership in the local chamber of commerce and just start getting out there and just offer. And to be honest, we were really, really scrappy, dude. The business was a done for you kind of service, where we offered, marketing services or resume writing, anything that somebody called us for, wanting to pay us for, we did it at first. And the process of that, as it evolved and as we learned more, we focused specifically on what we loved, which was online marketing. And we began to build websites. I'd actually gone back to college, learned how to, do coding and this and that. And so we started doing this done-for-you, fully marketing business for folks. And the money was great, multiple six figures. We were free financially. We loved it from the financial side. But we found – after about 2 to 3 years of doing this, man, we found that though we had financial freedom, we didn't have freedom of time. We were owned. We were slaves to the business, working 80, 90 hours a week. Clients constantly owned us. We were in that trading hours for dollars model, and we hated it. And one Christmas, well, you mentioned it, we were in Michigan, and we realized that wow, every day we have to spend 2 hours to drive down the mountain that her dad lived on to the church that her dad pastored, because it was the only internet connection in the town, to get on there, check client emails, do work, back and forth. Our whole Christmas vacation was consumed with this, and we said, that's it, we're done. We're done. We kind of did what you and I talked about earlier and just took inventory, personal responsibility, and realized some of the choices we've made have gotten us to be slaves to this business. We're done. We're making a choice. We fired all of our clients and launched into fully coaching, consulting, information-based world. And that's where we are now.
So, all right.
There's a lot there.
You're grabbing printers out of the trash. I mean,
Yes.
How'd you know these things worked, or did you just sell them for parts?
Well, sometimes they wouldn't work. We'd get home, we'd plug them in, we'd try them out. They wouldn't work. We'd throw them back in the garbage. 98, and this is the funny thing, dude, 98% of the time they did work. Like, people would just put stuff out there, man. They'd put it out. They didn't want it. And it would be like sitting next to their trash can. It'd be a printer or, one time, as a matter of fact, I remember probably one of our biggest, we'd call it hits ever. We're in kind of a wealthy neighborhood, and we saw this box. There was a big box, sealed, never been opened, next to the trash can. And we were like, wow, what is that? So we get out, and I kick it, and it was really heavy. I'm like, wow, what is this? And my wife saw the logo on the box. She's like, wow, that's Mona V. She's like, that's a really, really expensive juice. She's like, is it in there? So I ripped the box open, and there were 12 bottles, like wine-sized bottles of this Mona V, and they're like $80 a bottle. We're like, wow, we hit the jackpot. We're like, holy crap, we get it. We put it in the car. We get home. We put it on Craigslist. Somebody like an hour away called us and paid us on PayPal like $450 and said, hey, I can't come, but listen, I'll be there by the weekend. Hold it. I want it. I'm coming to get it. Yeah. And like, this happened a lot. Like, we did this often, and then we kind of, as we started making some money like this, dude, we're excited, man, because we're at the end of the day, we're young. We weren't even 30 yet. I'm just coming out of prison, so the ability to just drive around and actually make money doing this was extremely exciting to me. And so we moved from there, and we started getting into like the storage unit auctions. This was before the shows were cool. And doing that. And so we kind of rolled it, but we knew all along where we were going. Like, we knew, these are just stepping stones. Like, we have to do this. And, really the whole trash thing kind of came about because when she lost her job and when I couldn't get a job, we just looked at each other and we're like, you know what? We're going to make our own way, dude. Forget it. We're not leaning on nobody. We're not going to be trying to get a job. And we just really didn't want to work for anybody, man. And so this is the way to go. Right.
Well, that's pretty crappy with her job. I guess you got to pick your battles, huh? You could probably go sue and win, but what's that going to get you?
Yeah, and for us, being young and probably uneducated on what our options were, and the resources to go about that, it really was one of those things. But we look back at it, and it was one of the greatest blessings that happened to us, because if it hadn't, she probably would have continued down the employment route. Lord knows where I would have went with either a job or trying to get business going. But, her and I we just feed off each other so very well, because the things that I suck at, she's really, really good at. And the things that she sucks at, I'm really good at. And so in business, we've really been able to just complement each other and grow, probably a lot faster than we would have if it was just one of us.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Batman needs Robin.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because that's her name. Her name's Robin.
Mike needs Robin.
Yep, absolutely.
So, I mean, there's so many lessons there. And, I hope people are listening to this over and over, because there are so many opportunities. And, the setbacks, the trials and tribulations you may be going through right now, you're going to look back and say, I needed that. I needed to lose that big client. I was on unemployment when 2 of my kids were born, but I always fell forward. There were some dark days here and there.
For sure, definitely. And the interesting thing here is, for the people that are listening, when I share the story and stuff, there's always like a wow factor to be like, wow, really? Like the idea of spending 10 years in prison is like, holy crap, dude, really? And so the thing that I really like to share as people are listening is, my story is kind of a really, really dramatic version of failure to success. But at the same time, it really should allow you to really look at where you are in life and say, wow, if this dude could go from, inmate, 10 years in prison and all that comes along with that, to be able to create success, then you definitely can.
Well, I guarantee you, though, there's always the naysayer saying, well, of course, he had 10 years to master marketing in multiple languages, and I don't know any of that. It's like, oh my gosh.
But you get that, and that's the funny thing, because I've had a lot of guys that have come home from prison that I was in prison with, and they've come home, and some of them spent a few years after I did. So they came home, and they see we've had a nice house and we've got a business and these things. And as I share with them, like, dude, you can do it, and I'll help you. I'll show you. I'll mentor you. There's there's been the few of them that have had those excuses like, well, you had this, or, oh, you're smarter than me, but really though, I mean, excuses are just, there's always something that you can make an excuse about or something that you can draw from to shift the responsibility. And I think at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, is just owning it, taking responsibility, and making things happen, man.
So what works now in marketing? What are you've got a mastermind group, right? You've got coaching programs. You've got, we'll link to this, marketingmegaminds.com. What are you, is there a common theme right now insofar maybe technology or platforms?
Absolutely. Here's the thing that we are absolutely in love with, and this is the thing that we do. We have a couple of businesses. Our main business is coaching and consulting, and then my wife and I also have a couple e-commerce shops as well, which are doing really, really well. And across all of the businesses, and we work in a lot of different niches. So if for the people that are listening, like, yeah, that might work in information marketing, but I have physical products. No, we sell physical products. We sell information. We work with local businesses. What I'm going to share works. It doesn't matter what you are in business. And the thing that we use, and it is working so effectively, is Facebook ads. Facebook ads are one of the most powerful tools to grow a business, whether you're brick and mortar or whether you're sitting in your pajamas on a laptop, just getting started, trying to, get some things out there. Facebook ads are working. And I'll share a little story. My wife and I just recently got into the e-commerce space, probably about a year ago, just wanting to kind of test our skills. We've been in the marketing world and online marketing for a while, and we were like, you know what, let's see, how much we know. Can we apply what we know to physical products and make it successful? And we did it last year. We took some ideas and got some things going. And for the folks listening, the first two ideas failed miserably. We learned a lot, spent probably over $10,000 that we completely wasted on ideas and websites and things that didn't work. But we kept going at it because we knew there was something here. And we finally did get a store that was successful. And we took this store from – it had done about – in 90 days it did about $7,000. And when we took it over, we actually bought it from someone and applied what we knew. We took it from about $1,000 in profit a month to over $65,000 in less than 60 days, simply utilizing what I'm sharing with the power of Facebook ads.
All right. So I gotta shoot holes in this. It's what I do.
Let's do it.
Because people are going to say, well, I don't have $10,000 to waste.
Yep.
And then they're going to say, well, there's more to it than just an ad. I mean, I'm sure you have a landing page and a squeeze page and professional video and great copywriting and merchant accounts, and I don't have any of that.
Here's what I'll share for the folks that listen that are naysayers. We actually taught the system to my wife's brother, who has zero understanding of technology at all. His career has been a whitewater rafting tour guide. Like, the guy's actually lived in a Silver Bullet small trailer in the woods in West Virginia and has been on unemployment and has like, hey guys, I see what you guys are doing. He saw us for Christmas in Michigan just recently and it was like, would you guys teach me? And we were like, yeah, if you're going to do it. And we taught him, and he took zero understanding, zero budget, and has been able to create, an e-commerce platform, an e-commerce store that is highly profitable for him from somebody who knows nothing. And here's the thing. We have no expensive videos, no crazy copywriters. We literally send traffic from Facebook to a actual buy a product page, and people buy. The power of this, and this is why Facebook is so powerful. And if we could spend – I could talk about Facebook ads for as long as you want to, Wes. We could just keep going and going and going. Facebook ads is like my favorite thing to talk about because it works so well is – and why it does is because the power to dangle a carrot in front of a extremely targeted audience that is in love with that carrot is what makes it so powerful. You can literally, and I'll use an example. We started in the political realm, and this was the first area that we saw success was with a political T-shirt based phone cases, things along those lines type of a store. And we were able to target some of the most fanatical, right-wing, over-the-top, fanatical people using Facebook ads, and then put things in front of them that are right up their alley of what they love. And it's just a natural – of course they're going to buy it. It speaks right to them, and that's where the power is. So for the people that are thinking that, excuses, it is literally – that easy. It's not something that takes a degree in rocket science or any of those things. What it takes is the willingness to execute.
And are these things that you teach in your courses? Is this like the Facebook group or the mastermind group that you have?
Yeah, we have a program called Funnel Fanatics, which deals with all things online marketing related and the power of funnels and the power of driving targeted traffic through those funnels. And you said earlier, marketingmegaminds.com. It takes you to our private group which is free to join for everybody. And we are constantly sharing case studies, examples of what's working. I get on live in the group at least once or twice a week and just share things that we're currently doing that are working. We field questions from folks, and there's people that have car washes, dentists, people that are chiropractors, people that sell information products, coaches, consultants, sales professionals, realtors, people selling physical products in the group that are utilizing all of these different things. And so I'll get in there and I'll just answer questions, and people can ask, what they got going on, how do they apply X, Y, Z. So it's a really, really good group for folks to learn and just get feedback of how these things can apply to their specific situations.
Great. You said dentists and car washes, but you didn't mention mine. I do I do landscaping for people with 3-legged puppies with allergies, and you didn't mention that. So that group's not for me.
Well, there you go. That if 3-legged puppies with allergies, that's a tough market, man. You might want to find sell. You should be able to sell something to them, T-shirts or something along those lines. Allergy medications, man.
Little dog's cold because he's got allergies.
I'm telling you, and 3 legs is really, really hard to get around with, dude.
Oh, man. Well, that's awesome. I'm going to join your mega. I have it on my screen right now. You're going to hear a little ding as I multitask.
Nice. Well, you'll love it, man. It's definitely it's a happening group. We were just featured in Inc. as one of the top 4 Facebook groups for starting and budding entrepreneurs. So Great group. We're really, really active. And one of the things I think for the folks listening is you get access to my wife and I. We're not those folks that are, very untouchable and, we don't make contact with our audience. We're really, really personable. What you hear on this podcast is exactly what you get from us in the group. We're real people. We're in there. We share what works, what doesn't work, and we love to answer questions and just help folks out, man.
I like the way you did this. So the URL forwards to a landing page, right? Yep. So super simple. I mean, Lead Pages is affordable. I mean, if you don't do the 1 year, you can get it for what, $20 or $30 a month, right?
Yeah, somewhere along those lines.
But that's smart. You have people opt in before you take them to the page. That way, you get their email address, right?
Absolutely. And for the folks listening, this is a good little kind of a backdoor tip for you guys. If you're driving traffic to anything, you need to be taking advantage of at least the opportunity to get an email address from them.
Yep. Hey, why don't you quit multitasking? Because you approved me while you're talking to me. You need to focus on me, okay?
Absolutely,
focus on the interviewer, man.
I'm massively ADHD if you haven't like figured it out yet. So I'm spinning in my chair. I'm looking. I'm dinging. It's all kind of stuff going on, man. And it's funny because this is really one of the things that make my wife and I so powerful in business because she is absolutely not she has to focus on one thing and be all in, whereas I have to have multiple things going on or I lose focus.
Right. And then if you do that in school, right, they want to give you drugs because they say something's wrong with you, and I'm like, you're not giving my kids any drugs, people.
No, man. And they did. They drugged me up when I was young with Ritalin and all kinds of stuff. Oh, the kid's hyper. Well, how many 5-year-olds have you met that are not hyper and full of energy? Oh, my God. Really?
I still remember that. I mean, I was 4th grade, super smart, all A's, and teachers like, we love Wes. He's really nice and sweet, and he's got great grades. They're like, but we'll be taking a little test or quiz, and we'll just hear this little buzz, 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 and there's Wes. It's like, so I'd bang out this little test, right? And I'm done. And I'm looking around like, hey, buddy, what are you doing?
Yep.
Why don't you finish that test? I mean, let's go to recess. Let's talk. And so they're like, it's not my fault that you can't challenge me. Don't shut me down. You rise up and give me a better challenge. And that's what schools don't do. But, I digress. I could go off the whole big
thing. Me and you were on the same page right there, dude. We could talk and just go down that route for ages, man. But me too. That's exactly how I was in school, man. I'd breeze through my work. I'd get A's. They'd swear there's no way you could have finished it that quickly, and did well. And I did. And they couldn't challenge me, man. And it led me down the bad route. You mix that with a wrong environment. A bored kid with a bad environment is, it's a breeding ground for a 10-year prison sentence.
Okay, let me ask you something. What's your rationale, or how do you juggle a Facebook page versus a private group? And how do you know where to focus your energy?
That's a good point, man. I mean, that's a good question. The Facebook group, my wife and I have done a really good job of grooming the audience and really creating a really, just focus expectation in the group. So the group is really where we share a lot of marketing related things, specific things. If I do live video, it's specifically focused around online marketing. Whereas on my personal page, I do share, business related stuff and marketing related stuff, but we also really like to keep the personal page where it's the opportunity to get to know us. And my wife and I are very, very transparent. So I'll, if I do a live video on my personal page.
Well, so that's your personal profile, right? Do you have a business Facebook page?
Oh, okay. You mean a business. So, the business Facebook page, here's the deal for everybody that's listening. Facebook has made so many changes to their algorithms and things along those lines. My wife and I do we have a Facebook. We probably got 12 or 15,000 likes or whatnot on it. But because the reach and the ability to have access to that audience is so limited, it's not something that we spend a lot of time focusing on. Whereas within a Facebook group, because those members get notifications when things are posted and they get notifications when you go live, it's a lot more valuable and just advantageous of our time to be focused in that group and sharing content. We do post and do things on our, on our business page, but we notice that the reach and the engagement and the amount of people that see it versus the amount of people that see and engage in the Facebook group is like night and day.
So are you running ads on Facebook to promote your group?
We have. That's how we grew it initially to get started. We ran ads, inviting people to join the group. Once the group hit about 1,000 people or so, it begins to grow organically because as people join, then their friends see, like your friends are going to see Wes join Marketing Megaminds. And if your friends are in a similar audience as the people that are in the group, which, usually entrepreneurs tend to be friends with other entrepreneurial types, they'll see like, oh, what's that group? And then they request to join. And it kind of snowballs. So for folks that are listening and like, hey, I want to, use a Facebook group as part of a marketing strategy, start, get the group, get it started, pick a good name. I think the name is one of the most important pieces of the group. You want it to be something that's intriguing, that makes you like, wow, what is it? I want to join that. And something that kind of speaks to what your audience, what type of audience are you trying to attract? Something in line with what you offer, and start running Facebook ads. We started, I think we only spent $5 a day just running ads to get people to join. We knew we had to get over that about 1,000 member hump. Once we did, it would start growing organically, and it has. We're somewhere near like 5,000 or so, 4,800 or something. And we just continue to get new requests now because it grows organically.
And then, so how do you juggle though the free group, the free private group? But so you put content there, but then you're obviously going to sell some type of coaching or mastermind group. How do you discern what do you give away for free versus what you give in the paid group? Because, there's only so much stuff that's out there. right? You
Sure.
ever afraid that, you're going to give away too much for free and they won't pay or vice versa?
That's a good question, and I'm sure a lot of the audience thinks that, and that's probably a question that a lot of folks, have. When it comes to the free side of things, I've always been a big proponent of. I never like to operate out of fear, so I never want to be operating in a place of, if I give away this, then they're not going to buy from me. I have found that some of the best clients and folks that buy from us have come from some of the most in-depth free things that we've got, and a lot of times we find that why folks will buy in the audience is that a lot of folks will engage with some of our free content and they'll engage with that, but at the same time what they really want is they want that one-on-one, or they want us to show them how it applies to their business. They want us to show them that take it to that next level. That's what they want. Even though we gave a ton of them away, they're like, wow, that was great, that was awesome, show me, I want more, let's take it to the next level. So never operate in a place of, if I give this away then they won't buy from me. Yeah, there's always going to be that portion of tire kickers among your audience that aren't going to buy, and they probably never will, but there is a much greater portion of your audience that will love the things you're sharing and want to go and take that next step with you, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's basically people will pay for convenience.
Yes. Very good point.
I was in the social media marketing world, and Paul Colligan was talking about the podcast report. And he said his first book was just a transcription of like the first, I don't even know, 50 or 100 podcast interviews he did. And he's like, people, they're all online. I think the actual transcriptions were online as well. He just put it into a print. But people would pay for convenience. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to highlight that, because people are like, what do I give away? But the reality is, as you get going, there's always something new to learn, right? You're always learning something else to share. And because you're in the industry, I'm going to make the assumption that you're your own guinea pig, right? You and your wife are testing out new things and sharing both what works and what doesn't. So you're going to shorten the learning curve for your members, and people will pay for leveraging your pain, right, and your joy.
Definitely, man. And I find, like I shared, I'll do like Facebook Live video and get in there, and like there's no limit, like there's no filter on questions that I'll answer. Like people could ask questions, and I won't be like, well, hold on, that's a question that we need to direct you to the paid side of things for us to answer. We don't do that. Like there's no filter. If people ask a question, I'm genuinely going to give you the best answer that I have based on the question that you asked, man. And I find that, people really, really value that. And I think there's something about the human conscience that, people at some point, when people have been, just kind of receiving so much free content from you, at some point, a lot of those people do kind of feel an obligation to buy or to take that next step with you and go to the next level. And I also find that a lot of the folks come to us and say, wow, if this is what you're giving away for free, I can only imagine what's on the other side of, when we actually buy something from you. And so it works on both sides.
Right. Well, man, this has been awesome. Thank you for opening up, and sharing your story, your inspiration. Any parting words of wisdom? I like to ask my guests, imagine our listeners, they're at the gym, they're jogging, they're on an airplane, maybe they can't take action right this second. So put a bug in their ear, right? What should they do when they get back to their desk, when they get somewhere they can write? What action should they take?
Well, the first one would be join the group. Join the Make Up Minds group with whatever idea, whether you're somebody who's just at the budding idea of entrepreneurialism, get in there. Let's talk about it. Let's see what the idea is and how we can help, how we can expand it. If you're somebody who's got a business and you're growing and want to go to the next level, same thing. But I think at the end of the day, and I'm looking at this quote in my office right above my whiteboard, and it's something that my wife and I live by. I firmly and solidly believe it, and I'll share this with everybody listening. And it says, real progress comes from execution, not access to proprietary ideas. And I'll leave that with everybody. And it's something that we really, really firmly just believe, is that progress in life just comes from execution. And that progress could be Execution led to a failure or a mistake that you learned from and were able to improve upon, and you get better at it, as well as successes. Execution is the thing that takes you to the next level and the next level and the next level. So make it happen.
Very nice. All right. So one more time. Real progress comes from execution, not access to proprietary ideas.
Yes, sir. And I can't take credit for that. You actually mentioned Lead Pages, which we're actually great friends with the founders. That we've been there from the get up. All those guys are really good buddies of mine. That quote is actually Clay Collins, who's the founder of Lead Pages. He quoted that. And I loved it. We put it into like a vinyl thing and put it up on our wall, and it's right over our whiteboard. We look at it every day because it really is the truth, man. Progress comes from execution, not access to these high-end specialized ideas and all this insider information. It comes from just executing.
Yep. Amen. The old Gary Halbert, motion beats meditation.
Bam! Another awesome dude that I love his stuff. Definitely. Motion. I like that. Motion beats meditation. Good one.
Yeah. Oh, you just like him because he went to prison, man. Look, don't be hating on us non-prison guys, all right?
Oh, is that it? I'm hating on the non-ex-cons? Is that what it would be?
Sometimes I use my water cup and I get Sprite. Okay, so look, I'm a bad guy.
You are a bad guy then.
Ooh,
nice.
I'm tough, baby. All right, man. Mike Pisciotta, all the way from Florida. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Wes.
All right, dude. Have a great day. So what do you think about that, huh? Real progress comes from execution, not access to proprietary ideas. Motion beats meditation. And I love how early on in there he talked about owning your path and your journey if you want to succeed. Crazy how we get such sage advice from an ex-con, right? And he is in the minority that he changed his life around. He's one of these great stories. He was rehabilitated, and that is fantastic. But you notice how life gets really clear when you're faced with a tough choice, when you're faced with big challenges. So don't ask for the lack of challenges and obstacles in your life. Pray for the courage and the wisdom and the stamina, the intestinal fortitude to overcome them, to rise to the challenge and to beat them. And that's what Mike did. But I hope you were inspired by the story. And, and I asked before, and there really is no good answer, but I'm going to continue to seek it. How can people succeed? How can they find that fire in their belly without hitting rock bottom? I've had so many people on the show that hit rock bottom and then turn things around, and it's fantastic. But, a lot of times when you hit rock bottom, you have nowhere else to go but up. And so it becomes maybe an easy journey, or at least an easy decision, right? It's either I've hit rock bottom, I'm going to lay here and die, or I'm going to fight back. But how can you grow without hitting that rock bottom? So that's my eternal journey and mission here with the Sales Podcast. Lots of little nuggets in there. Like I said, go back and listen again. If you like this episode, please talk about it, share it, engage with Mike and me. Mike's got a great private Facebook group. You can find him, and all the links you can find to him and his group is on thesaleswhisperer.com/session 195, because you will never know how to spell Pisciotta. I know I didn't. So session 195. And as I mentioned at the beginning, please check out MakeEverySale.com. It's my new signature program covering 21 years of sales. And I go into detail on what you need to do to make every sale. It includes a workbook. It includes lifetime access. It includes a private Facebook group so you can engage with the other members as well as me and get daily, if not immediate, reports and feedback from myself and others to help you make every sale. So please check that out, makeeverysale.com, and enroll now before I raise the price. Thanks for listening. Please give a 5-star review on iTunes. It matters more than you think. And remember to sell different.